This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.
Hey, Thomas, we made it happen.
We did. Thanks for that.
Whereabouts are you?
I am just on my way back from Montreal, to be honest with you, back to Ottawa.
And then
Busy day in Montreal.
What's going on in Montreal?
Well, it is September. It's all about roadshows. It's about getting our story out, making sure people know who we are and all the great stuff we're doing.
So listen, I think that's an important thing. First off, the definition roadshow alone. I know what it is because I'm sort of, as you know, really heavily involved in capital markets, love helping out companies with sort of strategy and any, I call it word of mouth IR. But I think it's an important, like what does the roadshow mean? And then what is kind of the wonderful story you love to tell about the company?
Yeah, well, obviously I've been, for so many years, I've been an operational person, executing, doing all that goodness. Since we're now a public company, I have to also focus equally on making sure that investors, shareholders, that market knows who we are and really the roadshow is meeting with a group of investors, multiple times over a number of days, weeks, months, and just making sure that everybody knows who we are and just updating everybody at the end of the day.
And in terms of some company updates at 360Secure, if there are interested investors out there, and everyone knows I can't give financial advice, but I look at your stock price right now and I'm like, my God, now's the time to buy. But again, and as everyone knows, I work with you too, so it sounds biased, but I am an investor within the company. But what is going on with the company? Because it is, I know it's very alluring. It's you guys are doing so many different things and getting so many different clients. But how do you explain it?
Yeah, it is. The cannabis industry at the moment is taking a hit. We're not a cannabis company, as you well know, but we're affiliated with it. We are that picks and shovels ancillary approach to the cannabis space. So at the end of the day, the markets are reflective of that, and I think. There's just so much going on with us right now from within Canada. We're continuing to gain market share. We're working a lot with new clients, and we're really focused as we head into the fourth quarter and into 2020 on two major fronts. One is really we've got some really interesting initiatives happening in the U.S., which I can't elaborate on at the moment, but the other side of the coin is really about, meeting our there's actually, we're aftermarket now, so I can talk about it, but we're really, we're going to come out with a little bit of news tomorrow. We're going to, mention that we're on track for our another record month of revenues for Q3. We're going to be talking about, cost-cutting measures, efficiencies. Really what we're trying to do here, not even trying, we're actually executing on it, is really getting to a sustainable path to profitability. And we're really going to recognize that in the fourth quarter. And I think that's going to make a whole lot of people happy as we're moving into 2020 as a profitable company.
Very exciting to hear. As we know, for a lot of different companies, they sort of take on, whether it's big raises or big capital, and then the burn rates are high, and it's tough to do that pretty quickly. But it sounds like you guys are forecasting a real quick path to get there, and that's what you look for in a good company and a real company. And I was thinking about you guys a lot because I love the management team, and obviously I've gotten to know you so well, and whether it's David or Craig comes on, and I know some other guys behind the scenes a bit, and it's interesting with the cannabis space because, at first it sort of was a very appealing mention, which is, hey, we're protecting these massive multi-million-dollar cannabis transports. And, for some of the biggest companies in the game that everyone knows. But as the space got hit, it's like, well, why is it affecting this company that's also doing a whole whack a load of other things? And is that the message you're also trying to get up to say, like, hey, we're a security company and we do X, Y, and Z as well?
Yeah, absolutely. After I met a couple of investors today, one of them said, it's interesting because the cannabis space has taken a hit, but at the end of the day, whether there are 200 licensed producers out there or 5, cannabis still needs to be protected and still needs to be moved, and that's what we do. And really, we're a diversified company. That whole seed to sale package, no matter how many are out there, at the end of the day, those pieces still need to happen. So I'm glad that investor actually saw that and realized it. So it was a good session.
I know you've talked about it on the past before, but just in case there's a new listener now, what are some of those other services? And I want to hire you just to look cool. I told you that, like bring it to a club or whatever.
Well,
okay.
I shouldn't bring it up, but that the cool package is what I call it. Your executive protection package.
Yeah,
right?
That's the cool package.
But we're actually we're waiting for a couple of regulations coming in, some adjustments to certain acts, but we're really pushing forward in the next couple of years on a diversification portfolio, which includes providing services to the police forces across Canada who are looking at cutting budgets so that we provide them with a third-party service of non-core policing, which is essentially prisoner transport, crime scene protection, detention cell, security coverage, et cetera, which puts those hardworking police officers back on the front line getting paid for what they need to do.
That's actually brilliant, man. I never thought about that there's been way too many cuts to our police services. And if there's police officers who are sort of spending, you're right, their time doing jobs that don't get me wrong, the jobs that need to be done. But if they're not out there going and investigating like real crimes that are happening right now and real protection of things that I guess a service like you couldn't provide, then we're kind of wasting that ability for the police. And that's really interesting. So, when you get into those kind of talks, is that where you show the police forces the training of your security guards, the case studies of the things you've done as a company at 360secure.com where nothing's gone wrong yet, they're were potential to go wrong? Is that the type of stuff you talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I created 360, fundamentally I created it to change the security environment, which is putting trained professional security officers, out there. I think that, the whole idea of having 2 constables in a cruiser pick up a detainee in Kingston and drive all the way to Toronto, one could say that those resources could be used more effectively, and that facility could be replaced by an outsourced professional security team.
Man, I love to hear that stuff. And Thomas, how much we've sort of touched on this in the past before, but as technology evolves and stuff, how much of your staff are sort of trained on a very technological level, coders and programmers and things like that?
We don't get into the coding component of it. I mean, we have great partners that do that, and at the end of the day, we make sure that our staff are trained in that technology. Technology is hugely important, but it comes down to the individuals, the people that are trained properly in that are able to execute.
But I would imagine you were always studying like different ways that I guess potential security breaches could be done and broken and stuff. Like, do you do simulations with your staff and stuff? I feel like that would be really cool. But like, what X could potentially go wrong, or here's something? Do you create scenarios in training?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are always addressing vulnerability, and vulnerability really is an assessment of what you have as strengths and what you have as weaknesses, and we kind of exploit what the weaknesses are based on our strengths. And our simulations are really quite interesting. It's something you can even watch when we finally make it happen. But we take real, our weapons, we put it in simunition kits, which is basically taking your actual sidearm and putting in, let's just say let's just say you're removing the interior guts of it, the real stuff, and putting in a simulation type of component where you're actually able to use your real weapon, but engage in a obviously not really shooting someone, but you end up having that show of force, and you end up having certain exercises to say, here's a perpetrator, how are you going to react? And then the engagement happens.
Man, that would be like, it's sort of like a real life video game at that point, but preparing you for real actions.
It is. I'll put a helmet on you and a face mask, and let's get on with it.
Is it? I mean, the weight alone of some of the equipment that people carry around when you're doing security stuff, is that, would it surprise people?
Yeah, I think it all depends, really. I mean, you've got obviously your uniform, but more importantly, in some scenarios, if it's a higher risk component, we put body armor on, and you level up from there. You put in inserts, which is basically like a ceramic type plates or titanium plates, which adds to the weight, and then of course your weapons and ammunition. But yeah, I think that if I think people would be surprised, particularly if these if they have that on 12 hours a day. It gets a little bit it's nice when you're able to take it off at the end of the day.
Without a doubt. Thomas Gerstenecker from 360Secure, 360SecureCorp.com. I thought of you guys today. I knew you were coming on the program, and I hate to take it down this path, but it was really interesting for me today. I dropped off my little boy at school, and just as I was driving away, I noticed that 4, maybe even 5 police officers went into the school. And we've been pretty fortunate here in Canada. There's been some terribleness that have happened in the States, and not to fearmonger or anything, but, there have been incidents that people are aware of with school shootings and things. And I thought, man, would school systems stand, would I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but would we benefit on some sort of security forces within our school systems to add peace of mind to parents who are dropping their kids off? And I thought, to be honest, that I would. I'm like, I think that would be, I would add that in the school budget if it meant not learning so much about our history in the group of 7, because we don't talk about them. Yeah. So, I mean, are those conversations that are ever had?
I lived in the States for a number of years, and that is commonplace. You have a sheriff's office, protecting the school. You have them going in, doing active shooter training with teachers,
wow,
training kids. I mean, some of the programs you see nowadays, it's very real. I mean, one of my son's teachers back in New York, one of my son's teachers was her son was a victim of Sandy Hook.
Oh my goodness.
In Connecticut. I mean, it's very real, and so it's much more prevalent there. I don't know if Canada's there yet, to be honest with you. I think that, a training awareness component definitely could be used in the curriculum for teachers, and perhaps to a lesser extent with students. I don't think it's very far away. I mean, we're just north of the border, so. But we then again also have very, very different weapons, firearms regulations here as well. However, we are just north of the border, so it can't be something that we take for granted.
No, without a doubt, don't take it for granted. And I honestly thought, I'm talking to a security company, and wouldn't it be great I think a lot of parents would say the same thing, like, within budgets, you have a little bit more, some sort of security guard there on site, on premise. I hate the fact that my mind does go there, but when I saw 5 police officers walk in there, I was a little afraid. Luckily,
Yeah, you said earlier you don't want to be a fearmonger, but it does cross your mind, because what you see in real time in the U.S., it is real. So there's, I think, a balance. And I go back to when I talked about a vulnerability assessment, really. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What's that risk assessment? How often has it happened? How prevalent it is? And how are people able to get access to firearms, et cetera?
Well, and that's the real sad part, where you were mentioning, the gun laws are very different here in Canada, but still we also know that the illegal gun laws don't exist. So, if you have illegal firearms, someone's going to find something that we don't want them to have, whether it's just a pistol or an assault rifle. People are getting their hands on these things, and we can't ignore that issue, especially here in this big city and in Toronto right now with what's going on.
That's it. Absolutely. Without a doubt.
It's a frightening time, but it's always nice to just to talk to those that understand it from all angles. And you know, you run in a business protecting folks, protecting money transports, protecting cannabis transports. And I'm so happy to get this great education and knowledge from you, Thomas. And I see anyway, again, I don't give financial advice, but I just can't wait for the big things to come for your company. And I think your stock price will reflect that for sure.
Yeah, we've got some, I would say we have some, transformational things coming up in the near future that I think people are going to be pretty happy about. That's all I can say at this point.
Fair enough. Well, best of luck. We look forward to seeing those announcements. SAFE is their ticker symbol. Makes sense. 360Secure.com, 360 Secure Corp. And we're talking to the CEO, Thomas Gerstenecker. We appreciate your time and look forward to catching up down the road.
Same, Todd. All the best.
Okay. Cheers, man.
This is the Todd Shapiro Show on Canada Talks, SiriusXM 167.